Hello, lovely people, it's Sala from Card Times Ahead. Today's prompt for Junk Journal July is clusters. And before we get into the crafty part of this video, I thought I would talk to you about it for a moment. One of the most common things I've seen in or among new junk journalers or paper crafters or whatever you want to call the group of crafty people who hang out on the internet and wonder what things mean is what is a cluster? It's one of the most commonly used terms, I think, among journal makers. So I thought I would take a moment to explain that. A cluster is an assortment of things put together, basically. It's a grouping of different things. It's basically a collage, but a difference between a cluster and a collage pretty much is that clusters are often made ahead in time. Whereas whenever I collage, I build the collage on a page or a background paper. But whenever I make clusters, I just build them on a separate or as a separate piece. That is not entirely, it's not always the case. A cluster can also mean just like this is a cluster. It's pieces of paper that are grouped together. Or let's see, well, this is a type of cluster to, you know what I mean. It's a group of things put together. Sometimes there's a focal point, sometimes there's not. You can make clusters for yourself and leave the focal points out so that you can just use them in whatever project you might need one for. But basically they are embellishments, groups of pieces that are made into an embellishment. I hope this makes some sense. If it doesn't, please feel free to ask questions. Whenever there's something in my videos that you are wondering about or want to know more about, please reach out and ask. I'm always happy to help for what I can. Obviously, if I don't know the answer, I can give you the answer. But I promise I will always try my best. So that's the educational part of this video. Now let's get to the fun stuff. You can use any types of shapes for your clusters. I am starting off with some circles. I am cutting them out. I believe they are from day 5. And these will be my starting point for clusters number 1 and 2. So I took my scrap box, which includes all types of materials that I've used for Junk Journal July UK. So now I'm going through my scraps and figuring out what I think would work and what I want to add where. I am tearing some of the pieces smaller to make them fit better. I'm connecting different pieces to each other. So that is what you see me doing here. The border or the lacy pattern that you can see me using here is just a border punch that I've used. That is a great way to use up some white scraps you might have. It's just something little fun, decorative elements you can add to your clusters. And if the white is a little bit too bright for taste, you can always ink it up with some brown or something. Or you could coffee dye the pieces before you even punch them or after you have punched them to make them look more vintagey or so. Do you remember how I had some issues with my glue bottle for a few videos here and there? Well, I took the stapler, hoping that that would work. It didn't. So I have no idea what the adhesive and attachment gods have against me right now, but it's not going well for me. So I got my stapler fixed and it was working somehow for the rest of the video. Later on, I had some issues with recording. That goes for clusters 4 and 5. I did not realize that my phone battery was low. So, unfortunately, at some point, my phone just stopped filming and I did not realize it. So, I lost some of the cluster number 4 and completely the process for number 5. But I think this is kind of enough for you to get the idea of my process and how I worked with these. Because I only used one stapler or staple to put these clusters together, I am able to lift and ink around the edges, even on the layers that are on top. If I would have glued them down directly, which is also something you can do, I would have had to ink them ahead of time or, you know, just leave them uninked. But I still wanted to make them a little bit more secured, so that's why I decided to glue them on later on. Although the one stapler or staple, oh my goodness, and the fact that I glued the focal points on would have been enough to keep everything in place, but that's just me. I need to glue everything twice. Here I'm adding ink on my second cluster, and the focal points I'm using are from Sandra's, which is Be Happy Stationery, from her kit. It's called Hell Herbology. It's the official kit for Junk Journal July UK. And until the end of July 2025, you can get 50% off with the code JJJUK on her Ko-Fi shop. I will link it all down below. I will link the code post and I will also link her shop or the kit so that you can go get it for yourself if you want. I am also using some paper scraps here and there from the same kit, so I've enjoyed working with it. I'm not sure if this bee, or I don't think at least the flower that I will use for some clusters later on. I don't think they are from the kit itself. I think I fussy cut them out from the prompt sheet. So that one is completely free. And Sandra also offers some freebies from the Hell Herbology kit. So if you haven't had your prompt list or the kit before, definitely go check it out. Here I'm just starting to build the fourth one, which got interrupted a little bit, sadly. But yes, I think these are fun, and like I said, you can do them ahead of time and leave the focal points off if you don't know where you will use them. You can make the neutral versions and just make them suitable for your project by adding more layers and the focal point and so on. Especially if you staple these together, there's still a good possibility to add more layers in between the layers you already have and so on. So these are fun. They're great for scrap busting if your scrap boxes are bursting at the seams like mine are. This is just something fun and quick you can do. And even if you would have some papers that you don't really like, I think this is a great project for those too. Because if you use a paper like that in the middle somewhere, you probably won't see much of it anyway, so I think it's fun. There we go, I'm just finding my placement. And if you don't like the look of the staple showing through, you can just use glue or you can cover it with the focal point, like so. And here's the fifth cluster that didn't get filmed. Then I was making sort of an ephemera holder with creating two pockets. Here's the first one. This is from the Hell Herbology kit. So I'm just gluing that from three sides and attaching it to the page. And then I'm finding a cluster that I think would fit there. The cluster that I chose was a little bit too long for the page, so I decided to tear the top off. And later on I also ended up cutting the bottom part down that was hanging off the page. So you can definitely modify these later on as well. There we go. It doesn't have to be perfectly glued down. It just gives a little bit more organic look if it's, it's not all down. Some parts are poking or lifting off the page. Here I'm making my second pocket. I'm working on the see-through page this time around. It's glassine or pergamene, or I don't know what I should call it. But I knew that the glue would show through on the other page. But that's fine. There are so many ways you can cover it. And I totally put the glue on the wrong side. So I ended up having to wipe it off with my fingers and having gluey fingers. I could have also saved the situation with a scrap piece of paper to cover the glue, but I decided to get messy instead. Here's my second pocket, and I think this is a great way to store the clusters if you would like to use them in your project later on. This is like a little storage folder within your project, and also a great way to use up the clusters. There we go. And that is my project almost done. I still wanted to add the prompt, which I just glued on this time around. And that is my spread for today done. So this is the final result of day 14. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a kind comment below, and if you haven't already, consider subscribing to my channel, please. Thanks for spending some time with me and this lovely spread, and I hope you will join me again tomorrow for my next video. Thank you so much for watching today, and see you next time. Bye for now.